Good evening, everybody. Our top stories: President Trump shaking up his legal team and seems to be preparing to finally take the fight to Robert Mueller. The president's former attorney, Ty Cobb, letting the president know he wants to retire, and he is retiring. Replacing him, longtime Washington attorney Emmett Flood, who's expected to lead the president's cadre of attorneys in a far more aggressive response to the special counsel. We'll talk about the next phase in the Russia witch hunt. Chris Farrell of Judicial Watch with us tonight, Fox Business legal analyst Greg Jarrett. And we learned that Robert Mueller has actually threatened the president's attorneys, and there's now no doubt that Mueller is willing to do anything to subvert this president and his White House, threatening the president with the prospect of a subpoena. The special counsel appears to be nothing less than the deep state's tip of the spear in the assault on the Trump presidency. Former Deputy Attorney General Tom Dupree, Washington attorney Sean Bigley join us tonight to assess the deep state's obstructionism and efforts to destroy the Trump administration. Is a constitutional crisis at hand? And President Trump's top economic team in China, preparing to negotiate balanced reciprocal trade with the Chinese, and we'll learn whether President Xi is truly ready to open China's economy. We take up the confrontation between the Republican establishment and the Trump White House as we head into the midterm elections. We'll learn whether Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell will align with President Trump or with the Chamber of Commerce, the Koch brothers, and Business Roundtable. Leading Republican political strategist Ed Rollins with us tonight. Our top story: the attorney leading the president's legal team in the special counsel investigation is out. Ty Cobb retiring, making way for a new lead attorney. Cobb is known for his non-confrontational approach to the defense of the president. Cobb has declared throughout that the White House has been fully cooperative with Mueller, despite the special counsel's increasing and often outrageous overreach. Cobb being replaced by Emmett Flood, a veteran Washington attorney who represented President Clinton during his impeachment proceedings. He served as President George W. Bush's deputy counsel, lead counsel, and special counsel dealing with congressional investigations into the presidency. Flood represented Vice President Dick Cheney and clerk for Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. Trump also recently hired former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani, tasked with managing his communications with the special counsel's office. Giuliani today outlined the conditions and the prospects of any interview with Mueller.
Are they objective about the president's interview? Meaning, do they have an open mind to the fact that he may be telling the truth and Comey may be lying? If they have an open mind to that, then this is something we would consider. If they don't, then given all of the irregularities in this investigation, we would be foolish to have him be interviewed.
Giuliani joining Sean Hannity at 9 Eastern tonight on his show. Our first guest tonight says the president's legal team has been in need of a shakeup for some time and a profound change of both attitude and strategy. Joining us now, Chris Farrell, Director of Investigations and Research for Judicial Watch. Chris, good to have you here.
Hey, Lou.
Let's start with the subpoena, which I personally find outrageous. Because Ty Cobb throughout has been accused by many of simply being too passive, too responsive, and not protective enough of the president's executive privilege and the jeopardy that he faces in this special counsel.
There's a very grave challenge here. Look, Mueller is doing everything he can in a political, quasi-legal way to destroy any possibility of Trump 2020. They know he's in office now. They know he's got a little over 2 years left, and they will do everything they possibly can to make sure it's a one-term presidency. That's the objective. And sadly, I think that Mr. Cobb, I don't know him personally. I don't claim to have any special inside knowledge, but I do have an impression, an informed opinion, that essentially Cobb was sort of slow motion negotiating an indictment of the president. And I think the president was not well served. I think the current moves to have a very aggressive posture to push back on Mr. Mueller is the only way to go, because trying to play nice is a losing hand.
Well, this has been a 2-year investigation, almost a year with the FBI investigating so-called collusion. with the special counsel for now almost a year. We're coming right up on a year.
With zero to show.
So that's 2 years of investigation without an iota of evidence, without a crime being articulated on the part of the special counsel when it was formed. And the reality is, as we stand here right now, this president should not have to deal with a supra-authority that is a cancer on this constitutional republic. Who in the hell said the Congress has the power to create something called a special counsel that subsumes the prerogatives and powers and authorities of the presidency, and that he has to sit here and just take it? It is ridiculous. And I'm not talking about firing Mueller. I'm not talking about any of that response. I'm saying get into court and challenge the constitutionality of this, and do it now, and do it every damn day until you find a judge and a court that is responsive to the interest of the nation.
Two things. One, legally, everything under the sun has to be challenged. Mueller needs to be told, figuratively and literally, drop dead in court, but also in Rudy Giuliani's own inimitable style. But in addition to that, there's got to be a campaign waged where the disparity of treatment with the whole Obama, Holder, Lynch, Clinton criminal enterprise that was conducted for 8 years, where that is exposed and where the disparity of treatment is shown, because that's what's most offensive. The average viewer sitting out there looks at how Hillary Clinton waltzed away, and we could go into Uranium One and the email server and a litany of real criminality with zero done, zero. Yeah. And in this case, the president and his associates being gone after, with no proof, zero production.
Chris, I think that's a separate track. I really do. I think that the responsibility of the president to clean up the Justice Department and the FBI is straightforward. It has to be done. It needs to be done urgently and thoroughly and highly energetically. But on the other side is protecting this president from this nonsense in which they have a cadre of left-wing acolytes working for Mueller, who, by the way, as you well know, has a record that goes back to September 11th and beyond, an extraordinarily checkered performance, and many of his associates in the special counsel office have been overturned because of their prosecutorial misbehavior and conduct, and I see no reason for the American people to put up with this.
No, I mean, Rosenstein at Justice, Weissman on Mueller's staff, they're held up as these paragons, these virtuous justice seekers. What a load of garbage. Yeah. If people dig into the background and look at the misconduct, look at Rosenstein up in Baltimore and the office he ran there, they will be shocked. And frankly, I don't know how Rosenstein is still walking around the Justice Department.
Rosenstein saying to the Congress of the United States, which has oversight responsibility over the FBI and the Justice Department, saying he won't be extorted? Are you kidding me? Who the hell does he think he is? It's
a cowardly overreaction because he knows he's on thin ice. And so he blusters and pretends to be offended by what's really routine, normal oversight.
I could care less if this man is offended in any way, at any time, in any manner. What I do resent, I have to say, is a Congress that has been cowardly and passive in its responsibilities of oversight. After you say Devin Nunes, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee in the House of Representatives, it's very hard to find by anyone leading a committee or in any leadership role who's shown any sense of responsibility for the acts that we're all witnessing now and the forces that are arrayed against this president.
And to put the cherry on top, there's Attorney General Sessions. What is going on with Mr. Sessions? I can't explain it. I do not understand it.
Well, and in that, you're a member of a very large club. Chris Farrell, as always, great to have you with us. Thanks so much. President Trump today celebrating his newly sworn-in Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, as a true American hero. President Trump swearing in Pompeo, his new Secretary of State, ceremony at the State Department where he promised employees that he had helped the department. Pompeo said it this way: get its swagger back. A coalition of 7 states led by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton filing a lawsuit against the Trump administration to bring an end to the DACA program. The lawsuit asserts former President Obama exceeded his authority with his executive order that created DACA. Joining me now, Ed Rollins, Great America PAC chairman, former Reagan political director, Fox Business political analyst, great American, good friend, and good to see you.
Thank you very much. Nice to be with you.
Let's start with DACA. This lawsuit seems absolutely unnecessary. 3 district courts have ruled against it. Why in the world is there even a discussion? It was an unconstitutional executive order that could be replaced by this president's executive action.
And I think the most important thing is that your viewers understand that there is no legislation allowing these people to be in this country. The Congress tried to do it, didn't succeed. The DREAM Act got shot down many times during the Obama administration, and he just arbitrarily decided to put out an executive order. Executive orders basically can be repealed by the next executive, and that's what's happened here, and it should happen. Those states have to worry about supplying the resources and what have you, and so I think that's what they're frustrated like everybody else is. But the Supreme Court needs to take these lower court cases up here and get this thing resolved.
All right, let's talk the politics of a constitutional republic and a lawfully elected president who's under assault by a super authority, that is the special counsel, created by a law passed by Congress.
No, it's not by a law by Congress. It is basically the law that was passed by Congress was repealed. The special counsel today is basically an act of the Justice Department. The president is executive leader of this party or this country can say that we're not going to have any more special counsels. This was a situation where the Attorney General decided he couldn't handle it, and he basically appointed a special counsel. There's nothing in statute that sets this thing up.
So that statute doesn't exist anymore?
Doesn't exist anymore. The Congress.
And so that is simply the Justice Department on its own creating a super authority?
Absolutely. They made a determination they couldn't handle it themselves because the Attorney General wanted to put himself aside.
What do you mean they couldn't handle it themselves?
The Attorney General decided he had to repeal himself from take himself out of the mix.
So why in the world would President Trump not simply say to the Justice Department, we're done here?
We're done. He can do that. You've got a good attorney coming on here, Greg, but that's my recollection, and I've studied this issue. I'm not a lawyer, but I've studied this issue. There is no congressional statute with a special counsel. They decided they didn't want this thing anymore. They threw it out, and it's all about the Justice Department.
So why in the world would the Trump attorneys not be attacking this on constitutional grounds, attacking it on every level and ending it, as well as at the same time ordering the Attorney General, if that's what you can actually call Jeff Sessions, the person who is taking up residence at the Justice Department in the name of an Attorney General? Why would you not just simply eliminate these people?
The president should, and if he wanted to do that, there may be a political outcry, but who cares? He has that authority to do that, and the idea that you're basically prosecuting him for doing what he is entitled by the Constitution to do. Equally as important, we talked last night about why do these guys, the CIA directors and what have you, the past, still have executive secret privilege.
Security clearance.
They should not. President can say no, get rid of it, and that's what he should do. This president needs to step up to the plate. He's got a lot on his plate, and he needs to make his life a little bit easier by getting rid of all this stuff. This crap.
It's an obvious, overt attempt on the part of the special counsel to subvert the president of the United States. It's that simple.
But again,
by the way, let me add to that. It is also clear that Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan are part of the conspiracy and the coordinated attack on this presidency because they say nothing. They stand silent in the face of a constitutional authority that is usurping the powers of the presidency.
It is not a constitutional authority. It is the executive branch's authority. They basically made a decision because the Attorney General, it should have normally been the Attorney General who would be doing this investigation if he felt it was important. He took himself out. He turned it over to his deputy, who had no power, just other than being delegated, and he in turn...
Are you talking about Sessions? Whom are you talking about?
I'm talking about Sessions, and I'm talking about...
Yes.
He walked away from it, and there's no way he, at this point, can step in and do an effective job. So the president needs to change that hierarchy there, and the country, and it needs to make his case to the American public.
You know, it's not as if Donald Trump is an unknown quantity.
Right.
He's been president for just about a year and a half. He has achieved more than any president since FDR in office. He has done unprecedented things in terms of the economy, in terms of simultaneously meeting geopolitical challenges, whether it's China, Russia. This man is accomplishing more than anyone ever expected. And what is the result? He is being attacked by an establishment that means to destroy him and his presidency.
And had every right to fire the FBI director. He had every right to fire anybody in the executive branch of government that's an appointed presidential appointee. And he's got these big issues ahead of him. He needs not to be living with this distraction. We need to get it behind us. Get on with Korea. Get on with the other things he needs to do in the world.
How gutless are Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan that they will not stand with this president?
Well,
and the leadership of the Republicans in both houses.
Remember, the Congress didn't want this power. They threw the special counsel out. So the reality...
Please, I'm asking a question.
They're gutless. I've said they're gutless before, and they're not helping this president at all.
And that is a shame.
Well, and they're both going to pay a price. Their members are going to pay a price in this midterm election.
Price right now.
Right.
But it's got to change.
Right.
Do you think it will?
They're going to get awful nervous before this election because the country basically is more supportive of Trump than it is of them.
Well, I like that.
Well,
I like that a lot.
We still need members of Congress to pass some of those.
Well, you've got members of Congress right now rolling over for the establishment. They're going to talk tax cuts instead of talk about the Trump agenda, talk about the Trump markets and economy and his foreign policy that is not,
you're talking about things that are going nowhere. Balanced budget amendment, term limits, all that kind of junk. We've done that. It won't work.
No, I'm not talking about that at all.
But they are.
No, I'm talking about the establishment wants to push, quote unquote, the Ryan tax cuts.
Sure. So.
Can you believe that nonsense?
Well, he'll be gone shortly. So.
You got it. Ed Rollins.
See you.
Great to have you with us. Be sure to vote on our poll tonight. Is Mueller's subpoena threat clear proof the special counsel is simply out of control and acting with reckless disregard and disrespect for this president and disrespect for this nation? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs tonight. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte today urging the Attorney General to investigate the Obama Justice Department when it tried to shut down the FBI investigation of the Clinton Foundation during the 2016 election. We actually don't know whether it's still going on today or not. His request is unlikely to amount to anything. Goodlatte is a lame duck, and he has a poor record of actual achievement. Joining us tonight, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Tom Dupree. Great to have you with us, Tom. Security clearance defense attorney Sean Bigley. He wrote a terrific new Wall Street Journal op-ed arguing the deep state has weaponized the federal security clearance process in order to obstruct outright the Trump administration. Thank you both for being here. Let me start, Tom, with you and this the idea that we have to put up with a special counsel, a president who, I mean, this has become a super authority that now has more power than the president of the United States, not envisioned by the Constitution in any way, shape, or form. Why the hell should we put up with it?
Well, Lou, I think this just goes back to the fundamental problem with the special counsel, is that the very idea of a special counsel is you're going to take a prosecutor and put him or her outside the normal chain of command, outside the bureaucracy, as it were.
It's outside of government.
Well, it's certainly outside the ordinary chain of command. I think it's within the president's power to fire a special counsel, but it's not within the ordinary chain of command in the sense that the attorney general can dismiss a lying prosecutor like that. You have to go through certain hoops to dismiss a special counsel.
You know, in all respect, I mean, I'm talking to two lawyers here tonight, so forgive me, but you're just a lawyer. I mean, we're talking about the Constitution of the United States. There is nothing in the Constitution that envisions putting a suprapower over the President of the United States or in any way disturbing the balance of power among three co-equal branches of government.
Well, Lou, I agree with you that if the special counsel were, in fact, above the President of the United States, you would have a fundamental constitutional problem.
He has the power to subpoena a President of the United States. He has the power to bring charges against the President. Are you kidding me? That's a joke.
I'm not kidding. If the president still has the removal power and the power to terminate the special counsel, I don't think you can say the special counsel is above the president if the president, at the end of the day, has the power to remove the special counsel.
So what should this president do?
Well, in my view, Lou, I think that this president needs to do whatever he can to bring this investigation to an end.
No,
Means...
wait. No. Come on. And I want to turn to you, Sean. Thanks for being patient with me. The other part, this president is under no obligation, in my opinion, for any more games. The American people's will is being thwarted. The president of the United States is running a superpower. He is engaged in foreign policy across the entire globe. He is driving a almost $20 trillion economy, and he's got to put up with a bunch of left-wing acolytes trailing around Bob Mueller. Are you kidding me?
My point is that I think if the president were to give Mueller an hour or two of his time and answer limited questions, we bring this to an end faster. I don't want to see 6 months or a year of litigation, Lou, over a subpoena power. I don't think the president wants that. The country
I don't think
doesn't
the American
want it.
people want it either. I think they've
Absolutely
had a belly
not.
full.
Let's
Sean,
bring this thing to an end.
Let me turn to you real quickly on the security clearances. Your piece on, is it Adam Lovinger? Is that the way to say his name correctly?
Correct.
Is extraordinary. How many people are caught in the web of the deep state and the obstructionism throughout, as Tom pointed out, the bureaucracy here that has decided it is going to resist the Trump administration?
Absolutely, Lou. I mean, you put your finger right on it, frankly. I mean, this case, the Lovinger case, is symptomatic of a far, far larger problem, and that is the weaponization of security clearances against Trump appointees in a bid to keep them out and keep out people who will execute the president's agenda. So what we're seeing in the Lovinger case right now is precisely that. And I have to tell you, I mean, had someone come to me a year ago and said this is what we would be dealing with now, I really would have thought of it as a conspiracy theory. But what we have seen take place over the last 18 months in the federal bureaucracy has been nothing short of a wholesale repudiation of the election and an effort by entrenched bureaucrats to overturn it.
It's stunning. And how many people come up for security clearances? I think the number was something like 80,000 people in the course of a year. I mean, that is immense power. And the bureaucracy can simply suspend Adam Lovinger. In this case, he's been suspended administrative leave without having any opportunity to defend himself. This is outrageous. It's hard to believe we're talking about the U.S. government here.
He has been frozen out for a full year now from his responsibilities, and truly, this is, as I said, symptomatic of a much larger problem. I mean, if you take a look at even Ronnie Jackson, for example, right. You have, in essence, folks on the Hill, folks in the bureaucracy who have just decided, you know what, we're gonna throw things at the wall, we're gonna see what sticks, and there's no effort to verify anything prior to levying the charges. There's no effort to engage in what we in the rest of the world would view as fundamental due process. That all comes after the allegations have been levied, after somebody's reputation has been destroyed. And I'll tell you this, Lou, I'm very pleased to announce for the first time tonight on your show that we have been informed as of today that Mr. Lovinger's case is now being criminally investigated by the Inspector General's office at the Defense Department with respect to the allegations that he's levied about contracting, corruption, cronyism, all the stuff that was taking place that, frankly, Pentagon leadership didn't want to hear about, and that's why his clearance was suspended. So we're in a very different ballpark today than we were just yesterday, and it's about time.
And the Inspector General standing up. That is welcome news, and we wish you and Mr. Lovinger and all of the people you are defending and who should stand up against this deep state and the insidious, toxic structure that they've created in our federal government. I want to ask you both as we wrap up here, and I want to, what is your best judgment, Tom, about the solution? Because there is something very clear here. Our legal system is now corrupt. It's not just simply the leadership of the FBI, the Department of Justice. We have a corrupt judiciary as well. People don't want to acknowledge that. But this is without question a country right now that has, I don't know, people talk about 2 levels of justice. My God, it looks to me like far more than that. And it looks to me like the capacity to turn aside the will of the people in a legitimate election is risking the entire republic. Your thoughts, Tom?
Yeah, a few thoughts, Lou. The first is I agree 100% that so much of policy is driven by personnel. And when you have a new administration come in and actors, either the opposition party in the Senate or people deep within the bureaucracy who hold power over security clearances and the like, prevent a new president from putting his people into the government, that affects policy because you can't make the change if you don't have the folks you need in the government. As far as the broader picture, my sense is that we have gone very far down the road, and we certainly saw a lot of this during the Obama administration, where people would essentially criminalize policy differences, that elections have consequences, people vote certain parties for a reason, and just because someone differs with you or has a different policy view with you doesn't mean that they are a criminal actor. I think we saw a lot of abuses in the last few years along these lines, and hopefully we as a country can start recognizing that just because someone has a different political view doesn't mean they violated the law.
You know, that's a very warm and fuzzy thought, and I salute you for it.
Well, I appreciate that.
I think the SOBs need to go to jail. Because they are working against the interests of this nation. They are defying our standards, our laws, and they are corrupt in every possible way. I'm sorry to offer that as counterpoint to that warm moment that you've given us, Tom. Sean, your thoughts in the solution?
Yeah, you know, I thought everything that Tom said was right on the money. I will just add, I would like to see some members of Congress stand up and have a spine and do something about this. In the Levenger case, for example, I'd love to see a courageous member of the Senate put a hold on all DOD nominations until this case is resolved. There are tools here that are available to the legislative branch, and they're not effectively being exercised. And I hear a lot of congressmen complain that their primary frustration is the inability to get anything out of the bureaucracy, but there are tools here available and they're not being effectively used. So I'd really like to see Congress step up and start holding hearings,
Again,
start
we're back
using
to
their
Congress
tools that they have
and
available.
finding a spine and some principle. Tom Dupree, Sean Biglett, we thank you both for being with us.
Thanks, Lou.
The president today lashed out at the deep state Justice Department, tearing into officials there for not cooperating with document requests from congressional Republicans. The president tweeted this: a rigged system. They don't want to turn over documents to Congress. What are they afraid of? Why so much redacting? Why such unequal justice? At some point, I will have no choice but to use the powers granted to the presidency and get involved. I think at this point is where I say hallelujah. I think it's past time. Joining us tonight, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, author of this soon-to-be-released book, The Russia Hoax, the Illicit Scheme to Clear Hillary Clinton and Frame Donald Trump. Great to have you here.
Nice to be here.
Let's start. This conversation is way overdue to have.
Right.
And this president has been attacked in the media for even contemplating firing Robert Mueller.
Right.
I have never seen anyone in such reckless disregard of the nation's interest, such disrespect for the presidency, without in 2 years finding anything and arrogantly saying we're going to press ahead, and a bunch of fools on the left clucking saying we'll impeach the president were he to raise a finger against this unlawful special counsel. This is ignorance.
You know, Robert Mueller was appointed illegally, in my judgment. If you look at the special counsel
in the judgment
law,
of so many.
Right. If you look at the special counsel law, it's very restrictive. And Rod Rosenstein, who appointed Mueller, abused that law and misused that law.
Let's do a test. Why is there a special counsel? How did James Comey create a special counsel?
Well, there used to be, by congressional authorization, a statutory law called the Independent Counsel. Everybody hated it, so Congress let it lapse. So what the Department of Justice did is create, within the Code of Federal Regulations, new rules for a special counsel.
The Deep State Bible.
Right. Now, it's codified into administrative law, and the president has authority over it, so he can get rid of the law, he can fire Mueller, and he can fire Rosenstein.
Let's look at the compounding absurdities. The fact that this is some, it's from the ether, it is formed.
Right.
From cowardice and refusal to take responsibility. Secondly, we're looking at a president who is accused of somehow colluding with the Russians because he fired an FBI director. You tell me what damn sense that makes on any level. There is no sense in any of it.
It doesn't make any sense.
Isn't there a responsibility for us to make sense in government?
Well, the president can go to the American people and make his case and say, look, they've abused this federal regulation in creating this monster in the, special counsel. They've gone way beyond the bounds of decency.
Okay,
and it's time we put an end to it. I am ending it. And I will give Mueller 30 days to end it, or if not, I'll fire him. He could do that. There would be tremendous political fallout.
Oh, you're going to get fallout from the left no matter what. And
sure.
From the idiots in the rhino establishment of the Republican Party.
But the president has authority
to
do
silent.
It. Right.
He has an opportunity to condition the battleground.
Sure.
And that is get out there. And those rallies that you just saw in Michigan,
right.
Take that times 20. As he prepares the country for what has to come. I mean, the country's sick of this bull. I mean, absolutely sick of it.
They're absolutely sick of it. Look, if the president is, in fact, served with a subpoena to appear in front of a grand jury, he can file in federal court a motion to quash and say, you have no authority to do this. Now, I will say that Bill Clinton tried to challenge a grand jury subpoena under the independent counsel, and it didn't work for him. He ended up testifying for 4 hours in front of a grand jury.
Well, let's cut through.
So appear in front of the grand jury, and as to many
without being charged with a crime?
As to many of the questions invoke executive privilege, as to the others, take the fifth. That ends the whole thing.
Well, it may end it, but it doesn't change it. And the fact is, you've got to reach into that Department of Justice, you've got to reach into that FBI, and you have got to purge those corrupt fools from the leadership of those agencies.
I agree with you 100%.
You've got to change the mindset of a cowardly Congress.
And that is the authority of the president. He can exercise it if he wants to, and simultaneously make the case in front of the American public that these people deserve to be fired.
This is the time. He is risking his presidency, and the fact is there are so many complicit, silent people within the Republican Party. Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan should have the guts to stand side by side with this president. They don't. The ABA should be embarrassed that the legal profession is behaving as it is, because this is a corrupt, and I mean to the bone, corrupt judicial system and legal system that we are watching work.
Oh, it absolutely is. This is the unfettered power of rogue agencies that are now the so-called deep state.
Yeah. And with that, Greg, as always,
my pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Tonight's quote of the evening is for the president's legal team, who must take the fight now to Mueller and his politicized special counsel operation. Sun Tzu said this: know your enemy and know yourself, and you can fight 100 battles without disaster. Joining us tonight, Washington Times opinion editor, Fox Business contributor, Charlie Hurt. Charlie, great to see you. I mean, throughout this broadcast, we've been examining just basically one issue. Why in the world are we putting up with a rogue operation that has imposed itself over our constitutional republic and reduced the presidency to effectively reacting to its dictates and its schedule, rather than giving this president the freedom and the power to lead the nation?
It's because, sadly, there's an entire party, an entire half of the political world here in Washington who hate Donald Trump so much more than they like America, let alone love America. They want they will do anything to destroy this president, his presidency, including whatever it takes to hurt America itself. And it is that these people are even, sort of legitimate voice in politics in America today is an absolute disgrace.
And I'm not going to ask whether you're talking about the party of Schumer and Pelosi or the party of McConnell and Ryan, because it could be either. Yeah. The fact is, McConnell and Ryan have stood silent while this president is under savage attack, 360 degrees, 24/7, all year and a half that he's been in Washington, D.C. It is outrageous, and these are scurrilous, gutless cowards, as far as I'm concerned, to not stand with this president.
Yeah, no, it really is incredible. But I do think that you know, as much as a lot of the establishment Republicans here in Washington get the vapors over Donald Trump and his sort of outsider
the poor darlings, the poor darlings,
his outsider way of viewing things and viewing problems, which of course is why we're seeing so much
fixing the problems.
Right, exactly. Yeah. This is completely unheard of around here. But there is something especially pernicious about the glee with which Democrats are watching this process unfold, and the degree to which the swamp itself has it's a seven-headed dragon that is just sort of operating completely on its own. And you know, politically, you know, of course, legally, I think the president should sack the whole thing, fire everybody between him and anybody that's ever been within 10 miles of this stupid investigation, which is a political witch hunt from day one, right. And we know that.
So why put up with it?
I do get the argument that politically that could be disastrous.
It may be politically, but you know what? The fact is, if anything's going to change, it has to be changed. And this president understands that better than anyone. And we cannot tolerate this level of toxicity and corruption in our government. And it is spreading faster, not in any way being constrained.
But when I see what the real concrete good that is being done today under the Trump administration in the EPA, in all across the government, where things like real things are being, you know, real red tape is being ripped out, real regulations are disappearing. When I see things like that, I really do want to see this guy go at it and win another term. I want him to continue to be this success. And so I guess my argument is, if that means that they're going to play a little bit within the lines, as corrupt as those lines are, over here on this one thing in order to win politically, so that he can go for another 6 years to continue doing what he is doing, something that was unimaginable to us under the Obama administration, then I'm willing to give him a little breathing room for that.
Except it is, you know, it's asphyxiation. It's not breathing room. The government is being strangled. We have the deep state running the Justice Department. We have the deep state running the FBI, the Defense Department, you name it. And we have to have a change here. This man is here to disrupt. That's who he is. That's what he has done. And his record of accomplishment is so profound. I mean, he's not an unknown quantity. People now understand that we have a national leader who is already historic.
Yeah. And so much of it is owing to his ignorance of how things work around here, and everyone thinks
that again, Charlie. I don't think I understood you right.
People think that the ignorance of how things work around here is somehow a liability. No, it's not. Actually, coming in and looking at it with fresh eyes and coming up with solutions to, as you say, actually fix things, it actually works.
Yeah, you know, the expression I think would be the fact that they lack. Well, any kind of knowledge of what the deep state does is really a superior advantage, and certainly a virtuous reward, which this president has used to his advantage. Charlie, great to see you.
Great to see you, Lou.
I hope the president gives him hell. That's it for us tonight. Thanks for being with us. Former FBI Director James Kallstrom among our guests. Good night.